Hello, everyone. The concept of the soul in ancient Greek philosophy. Ancient Greek philosophy laid the foundations for much of Western intellectual thought. Among its many contributions, the concept of the soul or psyche stands out as particularly significant. The Greek understanding of the soul evolved over time, from pre-Socratic notions closely tied to life and breath, to more sophisticated metaphysical constructs in the works of Plato and Aristotle. This essay explores how key ancient Greek philosophers conceptualized the soul, its nature, functions, immortality, and its relationship with the body, highlighting the enduring relevance of these inquiries. Pre-Socratic views the soul as life force. Before Socrates, early Greek philosophers, commonly known as pre-Socratics, offered diverse and often fragmentary views on the nature of existence, including the soul. Philosophers like Thales, Anaximenes, and Heraclitus did not develop a systematic psychology, but did imply views on what constitutes life and consciousness. Thales believed that all things are full of gods, and that a soul or animating force pervades the cosmos. For Anaximenes, air served as the fundamental substance, arche, and the psyche was considered a kind of breath, or air itself, linking the soul with respiration and vitality. These naturalistic interpretations did not make a strict distinction between physical processes and consciousness, but they laid the groundwork for later metaphysical speculations. Heraclitus viewed the soul as a dynamic entity. He famously said, "You would not find the boundaries of the soul even if you traveled every road, so deep is its logos." For Heraclitus, the soul was closely connected with fire and transformation, reflecting the world's ever-changing nature. Though still vague, the idea of the soul's depth and connection with reason, logos, anticipates later philosophical developments. Socrates, the soul as the seat of moral character. With Socrates, a dramatic shift occurs. Unlike the pre-Socratics, Socrates focused more on ethics and human nature than on cosmology. For him, the soul was not just the life principle, but the core of a person's moral and intellectual being. In Plato's dialogues, our primary source for Socratic thought, Socrates insists that the soul is the true self. In the Apology, Socrates declares, "The unexamined life is not worth living," suggesting that caring for the soul through philosophical inquiry is of utmost importance. The well-being of the soul depends on virtue, arete, which is rooted in knowledge and wisdom. Consequently, ignorance leads to moral failure, and knowledge leads to the flourishing of the soul. Socrates did not provide a systematic theory of the soul's structure, but he treated it as the locus of moral reasoning, responsibility, and immortality. His belief in the soul's immortality appears most clearly in Plato's Phaedo, where he calmly awaits death, confident that his soul will live on. Plato, the soul as a tripartite and immortal entity. Plato, Socrates' most famous student, elaborates a more detailed metaphysical theory of the soul. His view blends Socratic ethics with Pythagorean mysticism and metaphysical dualism. In dialogues such as Phaedo, Republic, and Phaedrus, Plato develops the idea that the soul is immortal, non-material, and tripartite. In the Phaedo, Plato argues for the soul's immortality through various philosophical proofs: the argument from opposites, the theory of recollection, and the argument from affinity. He distinguishes between the realm of the senses, the physical world, and the realm of forms, the intelligible world, asserting that the soul belongs to the latter. The soul, therefore, is trapped in the body and seeks liberation through philosophy. In the Republic, perhaps Plato's most influential work, he offers a tripartite model of the soul to mirror his ideal state. The three parts are rational logistikon, the logical thinking part, seeking truth and wisdom; spirited, thymades, the emotional element, producing courage and ambition; appetitive, epithemedikon, the desiring aspect tied to physical needs and pleasures; justice, both in the individual and the state, arises when these parts are harmonized, with reason ruling, spirit supporting reason, and appetite being controlled. Plato's psychology, then, is closely tied to his political and ethical philosophy. In the Phaedrus, Plato introduces a mythic image of the soul as a charioteer driving two horses, one noble and obedient, spirit, the other unruly, desire. The rational charioteer must govern the two to ascend toward divine knowledge. This metaphor profoundly illustrates the internal struggle within the soul and the central role of reason in achieving harmony and enlightenment. Aristotle, the soul as form of the body. Aristotle, Plato's student, rejected many of his teacher's dualistic and mystical elements, favoring a more scientific and empirical approach. In his treatise De Anima, on the soul, Aristotle defines the soul as the form of a living body, the actuality of a body that has life. Unlike Plato's immortal, separable soul, Aristotle sees the soul as inherently connected to the body. It is not a ghost in the machine, but the essence of a living thing. This is part of his hylomorphic theory. Everything is composed of matter, hyle, and form, morphe, and the soul is simply the form of a living organism, not a substance that can exist independently. Aristotle also distinguishes between different kinds of souls corresponding to the different levels of life. Nutritive soul, shared by all living things, responsible for growth and nutrition, plants. Sensitive soul, found in animals, includes sensation and movement. Rational soul, unique to humans, includes reasoning and intellect. Now, this hierarchy reflects Aristotle's broader teleological worldview, where everything aims toward its natural end, telos. In humans, full flourishing involves the exercise of the rational soul in accordance with virtue, epitomized in his ethics. Unlike Plato, Aristotle does not view the soul as immortal in its entirety. However, in a controversial passage in De Anima, he suggests that the active intellect, nos poietikos, may be eternal and impersonal, leading to centuries of debate among later philosophers. Hellenistic schools, Stoicism, Epicureanism, and Neoplatonism. After Aristotle, various philosophical schools developed new interpretations of the soul, often emphasizing ethics and the pursuit of tranquility. The Stoics saw the soul as a physical, fiery breath, permeating and organizing the body, a kind of rational pneuma, spirit or breath. The soul includes faculties of perception, impulse, and reason, unified under the rational principle, hegemonikon. For the Stoics, the goal is to live in accordance with nature and reason, cultivating virtue and wisdom to achieve inner peace, ataraxia. While they acknowledged the soul's materiality, they often emphasized its unity and moral capacities more than its metaphysical status. By contrast, Epicurus argued that the soul is made up of fine atoms and perishes with the body. There is no afterlife, and thus no reason to fear death. His teaching, later developed by Lucretius, emphasized that understanding the nature of the soul and the universe leads to liberation from anxiety, particularly the fear of divine punishment or an eternal afterlife. Finally, in Neoplatonism, especially in Plotinus, Platonic ideas about the soul were revived and elaborated into a complex mystical system. Plotinus held that the soul emanated from the Divine One, and its purpose is to return through contemplation and spiritual purification. The human soul could rise through introspection, eventually reuniting with the intelligible realm. Conclusion: the soul as identity, morality, and immortality. From the pre-Socratic thinkers to Neoplatonism, the ancient Greek philosophers developed increasingly sophisticated conceptions of the soul. While early views tied it to physical breath or life force, later thinkers imagined it as the center of reason, moral action, and even spiritual destiny. For Socrates, the soul was the seat of virtue and the true self. Plato made the soul immortal and the key to accessing higher realities. Aristotle grounded it in the form and function of living beings, seeing it primarily in naturalistic terms. And Hellenistic philosophers adapted these ideas to various ends, from ethical transformation in Stoicism to materialism in Epicureanism and mysticism in Neoplatonism. These ancient debates remain relevant. Questions about the self, consciousness, the mind-body relationship, and the afterlife continue to preoccupy philosophers, psychologists, and theologians alike. Ancient Greek philosophy may not have given us final answers about the soul, but it created a rich conceptual framework and asked questions we are still exploring today. Thanks for watching.